Built-to-rent homes are become more of a commonplace, and then there's two camps of people. Some of them saying that it's actually a good thing and good for the housing market, and the other camp is saying that building to rent is a terrible thing to do. If you haven't heard about it before, it's where they literally are building houses just for the sole purpose of renting them out. So let me share some information when it comes to build-to-rent, the companies that are doing it, and you can make your own opinion if you feel that build-to-rent is a good thing for the United States or it's a terrible thing for the United States. I'm sure you already know how I lean on this. So let me explain to you why some people feel that build to rent is the right thing to do for a community. First of all, there's a housing shortage across the United States. Everybody knows that. But they also say there's a growing number of millennials and Gen Z and younger generations that have no desire to purchase a home, and they want that freedom of moving across the United States at any time where they could just break their lease and move into another home. But they want the comforts of home.
You get all the home with none of the hassle. Live freer. Lease a house from Invitation Homes.
This will give them the opportunity to have both of those things. They really like to sell it to individual investors and REITs because they also say that it's very profitable to them.
The build-to-rent concept, you see the validation of that because there's now $50 billion chasing build-to-rent in the last 24 months.
And investors absolutely love this idea of people never owning a home. And I'm going to give you a quote that is from an investor out of Phoenix, Arizona, and this is what he had to say about the build-to-rent market. Investor appeal is one of the main engines driving the build-to-rent train and has helped catapult next metro communities based in Phoenix into the stratosphere of the single-family rental development. Industry experts such as John Burns and RCLCO consider build-to-rent one of the most risk-adverse investment sectors. They're offsetting inflation. This is what investors do.
As interest rates rise, real estate is an interest rate sensitive industry. We have actually performed better in the last 6 weeks than the real estate industry as a whole.
Not only that, a lot of these build-to-rent companies tied into REITs, the REIT market. So they're getting a lot of return on their investments and they just want to keep dumping money into it. Because if you're not going to make money in it, there's no reason to do it. And of course, that's why they're doing it. And they're making a lot of money, a lot. And even though those reasons to have those communities seem to be just two big reasons, which is millennials want to move a lot. Second reason, corporations make a lot of money. It seems like a win-win for some people, right? But here are the reasons why it's bad. And I wrote a list. First of all, it limits affordability. If you look at a company like America Homes for Rent, they just got into the build to rent. They had been just purchasing already existing homes and they were renting them out, but now this build to rent is becoming a lot more profitable. They usually make homes that are on the expensive side if they're building them to build to rent. We're talking about rents in the like 2,000 range a month, but they're big homes, like 4-bedroom, 2-bath houses that are like double stacked, 2-story. They're putting them in areas that need to have more affordable housing instead of having these double stack houses with expensive rents. So that's limiting the amount of affordable housing, not just for you to purchase, but for you to rent as well. It's also keeping the rents in the area at a higher price point. If they take a bunch of that stock up of the area, that means that they can dictate how much the rents are even controlled at. So they can continue to raise the rents in those areas as long as the market can handle it. They're dictating the price. The second reason why build to rent isn't necessarily the best thing in the whole entire world is that it creates an unstableness on what people perceive their area is going through. Everybody knows that if you have a bunch of rentals in a neighborhood over a period of time, those rentals are not taken care of in the same way as the typical house that's owned by a specific owner. Now, a lot of these build-to-rent companies, they have their own like lawn maintenance and they have their own crews that take care of the houses themselves, but not all of them are as reputable as others. So you can have a obvious change in a neighborhood. You can tell when a neighborhood isn't being taken care of the way it should be. And it's usually the houses that are for rent. And I'm not dogging on people that are renters. I get it. But when it doesn't belong to you and it's not your house, there's no reason for you to go out there on a Saturday afternoon and start painting trim because it starts peeling. It's up to the landlord. And sometimes with these big landlords, they don't really care. And they're not willing to go out there and paint the trim like they should. And if they own the whole entire subdivision, they also own any kind of HOA that usually would protect against those kinds of things. And if they own 50% or more of that HOA, they're going to be dictating what the bylaws are anyway. So it can change the culture of an area if a bunch of the houses are for rent. So if you had a neighborhood across the street that wasn't a build-to-rent neighborhood, but the one across from you was, and they kind of look like they are in bad shape, that could bring down the property value of your specific neighborhood because people are like, I don't want to live next to that. The other reason why some people say that's not necessarily a good idea is because whenever you have a bunch of people that live in the area that are only there to rent, they don't really have as much community engagement as people that are, wanting to live there for full time. They get more involved in activities throughout the community. They get more involved in schools and PTAs, and it can cause a problem if most of the area is just rentals. I don't know if this is necessarily true, but this is one of the complaints that some people have when it comes to build to rent. From my own personal experience, I didn't even have children at the time, and when I was renting, I really didn't care about the community. I just wanted to go out and party, but I was young. So now, if your community does allow for these build-to-rent communities to come in and they start building a bunch of them, you're going to have an issue with how they actually put those homes together and what they look like and the speed that they're being put up. For instance, every area in the United States has a certain look that is done for homes. Here in Louisiana, we have the high-pitched roofs. In Texas, they have the really tall roofs. And then if you have a build-to-rent community that has one specific style, like colonial style homes, and they're building them here in Louisiana and they're building them one right after another, it doesn't really align with the community itself. I know that may seem trivial to you, but they kind of end up sticking out like a sore thumb. And the more that those communities start owning more and more, the more they're going to be able to dictate exactly what those houses can look like. It ends up changing the whole feel of your whole entire town. It may not seem like an issue now, and maybe there's only a few of those communities in your area. It's one of those things, it always starts off small, but it's going to end up getting bigger and bigger and bigger, especially as millennials and Gen Z get older. And they continue to push this product on them and keep trying to convince them that it's going to be too unaffordable for you to buy a home. And they all have very big investors behind them. They just have a fancy name. And let me get into some of them right now. The first company we're going to talk about, which was one that hit my radar last year, which is Todd Communities. They have some of the most interesting advertising I've ever seen.
Wow, this place has really high ceilings, even from down here. First a quick snack and then our tour. This great kitchen. Just enough storage for all my dog treats. What's this? I even have my own door and my own private backyard with toys and grass. This is the best place ever. I think I'm gonna love it here at my new home at Todd Communities.
I love that they added all this, heartfelt emotion to their advertising, but they're really trying to push their agenda of, really don't want a home. Another one is Wan Bridge. Right now, they're only in 3 communities, it looks like, which is Dallas, Atlanta, and Austin, Texas, which happens to be the hottest markets in the last, 2 years that we've seen. I think that's just their start-off point to catapult them even further. They have made a heck of a business practice, and they have some big people behind them that are going to continue to this process of building to rent brand new homes. We all know about Tricon and that Blackstone backs. They did a whole 60-minute piece about them. But American Homes for Rent is the one that is really intriguing to me because they were the first to get into the build to rent that was already a rental company.
First quarter of this year, 13,000 new homes were started as rentals. That's an increase of nearly 63% from the same quarter 1 year ago.
It doesn't look like they're going to be stopping anytime soon, according to that MSNBC clip, but I'm hoping that us as a community will get together and stop a lot of this. And I know you're probably saying, why would you want to stop something like this? We need more affordable homes in the United States. Yes, we do need more affordable homes. And yes, there is a sector of Americans that, of course, want to rent. And there's nothing wrong with renting. But I think this plan is all a bigger plan to get more and more people to rent for the rest of their lives. And they're discouraging younger people from purchasing a home. This is my biggest fear, and I've been saying it for years now, that they're trying to turn us into renters nations. They're trying to make you basically rent a car, so they get you under a lease agreement. So you get a brand new spanking car every 4 years, and you keep getting those lease payments, and they go up and up every single year. Now they're trying to get you into a house where basically you're leasing it for the rest of your life. You get a shiny brand new home year after year, and all you have to do is just sign on the dotted line for a year, and you have nothing to worry about. No mortgage payments, no maintenance, nothing. Everything's free and clear and all brand new all the time. I think it's insulting the intelligence of younger people because honestly, if you talk to a lot of younger people, they would love more than anything to purchase their own home, but they can't because the homes in their area are way too expensive. And investors say, well, we're filling in that gap because they can't find a home to purchase. So we're going to give them the home that they really want, but they're just going to rent it from us instead of purchasing it. And they're trying to sell it to us and sell it to younger people. And I just don't think this is the way we should be going about it. But if you wanted to stop some of that in your area, because you've seen it more and more, especially if you live in the Phoenix area, you're seeing a lot of those those build-to-rent communities, this is some of the things you could do. First, you can work on zoning regulations. In your area, there's always committees and planning and zoning meetings that you can go and attend and talk to the people there that were trying to propose their new build-to-rent community. You can put in your 2 cents and make your plea for why this isn't necessarily the best thing for your community. And you can limit how many of those build-to-rent communities are in your area when you go to those meetings. You can also make it so that they only can be in specific zoned areas, so they couldn't be in like the single family homes areas where normally the subdivisions are. You can make sure that those communities are like in multi-housing units, closer to apartments and condominiums, so they wouldn't be near the subdivisions. But try to work with your community planning and zoning so that's something that everybody can win. Win-win-win. We don't want to eliminate completely build to rent because there is a need there, but we don't want it to take over your area as well. The next thing you want to consider is getting people in your area on the same page as you. Most of the time, most people have no idea what a build to rent community is, and they can't even wrap their head on around what the big deal is about it anyways. Show them some of my videos about corporate investors and what they're doing with build to rent homes and see if that will change their mind. You might be able to organize a lot of people in your community that are against it just like you are. And voices are always heard better when there's a bunch of them instead of just one. One, it seems like you're complaining. Two, it's just a bunch of whiners. But if you have like a good 30-40, the community sharing their voice that they really do not want this to happen. If it seems like the planning and zoning office isn't really willing to hear you and your community is truly up in arms and you have many people that are supporting the idea of not having these communities in your area, you can always take them to court. Now, this is going to be expensive on your end. You might be able to threaten them. Just know that when you do something like this, they're going to have a lot more money to back themselves up than you are as a small little fighting force, little freedom force there. You can do it. And maybe the threat alone would make them change their mind. I wouldn't necessarily try to go the legal route. You choose what you want to do. But if you're trying to take them to court, just know they got deeper pockets than you do. Another thing you can do in your communities, and this is real estate agents have been doing this forever, but you can do it as a community yourself, is encourage home ownership. Because like my kids already have it in their brains that they're never going to be able to afford the home. But there's tons of programs out there that allow for people to get down payment assistance. Sometimes you don't even have closing costs. Sometimes with some of these new home builders, they're giving you money for closing costs. The market that we are in now, the home sellers are more willing to give you closing costs and all sorts of other seller concessions. So the hope and dream of not being able to purchase a home may not even be a real issue, but it might be in their brains because of what they've heard on the media for so long. So start getting the word out. Show other people there are some affordable homes in your area if you happen to have them. Let them know it can be done. You can purchase a house. Just look into some of the local programs you have in your area. Actually meet with a lender in your area and ask them what the first-time home buyer programs are in that specific area. Because if you encourage more people to purchase, more home builders are going to be wanting to build so they can sell them. Now, I will say this. There's one caveat to this. A lot of home builders don't like to build smaller, more affordable homes because it doesn't do what? Make them a lot of money. But if there's some kinds of incentives your local community could give to a builder to build more affordable homes, then maybe that's something you need to bring up to planning and zoning as well. Because each city and state has properties that they own that could be rezoned for residential use, and they could give it to those builders for development at a lower rate, so that way they would build affordable houses. But you and I know as well as anybody that owning real estate creates generational wealth. They wouldn't be doing these homes and building them and trying to buy up as many affordable houses in all these different markets if it wasn't making them cash. And let the younger generations know that. The reason they're doing it is because it does make you money. I know that a lot of millennials have in their brain what happened after 2007, and a lot of people's parents lost their homes. So they're in their mind thinking real estate is a bad thing. I will say this, that anytime that you buy a piece of real estate in any time of your life, if you hold on to that piece of real estate for 10 years, most likely you're making a ton of money. And big investors know that. That's why they're buying up houses. Even in some of the most crappiest areas in cities that I would never even have thought that institutional investors would purchase, they're doing it and they're renting it out. They want to own it. They want to own us until we die. It freaks me out. You know what really freaks me out more than anything is the people that defend the corporate investors for doing this. And I got an incredible quote from a subscriber when we were talking about this today. And let me read this to you. This is from Upton Sinclair. And it's difficult to get a man to understand something when his salary depends on his not understanding it. So if the person is getting paid by the big corporations, there's no way he's going to understand the plight of people trying to buy their first home, especially when he's making a lot of this. They will continue to try to sell this as the best thing for the young people. But you let me know in the comments section below. To watch more videos about the affordability crisis here in the United States, you're going to want to watch these videos right here. My name is Kristina Smallhorn, your real estate whisperer, and I tell you all this because good real estate information matters.